You ever meet someone so arrogant, so sure that life would always bend to their will, until the day it didn't? That was Joe. A man who thought fists could replace fairness, and lies could rewrite truth. But when I met him, I wasn't his friend. I was the man hired to destroy the empire he built on other people's pain. And by the time I was done, he'd lose everything. If you've ever dreamed of watching karma hit harder than any punch, hit that like button, subscribe, and settle in. Because this is the story of how a man who once beat his wife, threatened his partners, and lied his way through life, finally learned what it feels like to lose everything. Joe's downfall started the way most revenge stories do, with a single phone call. It was Joe's brother-in-law on the line. His voice was calm, but I could hear the fury tucked behind every word. He said, "I want justice. Not just for my sister, but for everything that man stole from me." You see, Joe hadn't just been a violent husband. He'd also been a crooked business partner. He'd cheated, lied, and bullied his way into taking money that wasn't his. But this time, he wasn't facing a scared wife or a nervous investor. He was facing me. I took the case. Joe swaggered into court like he owned the place, smirking, confident, the kind of guy who believed that if you spoke loud enough and lied long enough, people would believe you. He'd done it before. He'd beaten his wife's testimony, manipulated the system, and walked away with a settlement that left her penniless. But this time, the law was on my side. And when the verdict came, Joe's smirk cracked for the first time in years. The judgment against him was massive, bigger than he could ever hope to pay. He didn't know it yet, but that was the moment everything began to crumble. I went after his assets, like a bloodhound on a scent. One by one, I tracked down every dollar, every hidden property, every vehicle. Joe had always believed he was untouchable, that he could hide behind shell companies and intimidation. But arrogance makes people sloppy. He didn't lawyer up in time. He thought he could outsmart me with the same charm that had fooled others. By the time he realized how serious it was, I'd already gutted his finances. He had one property left, a modest house, the only thing keeping him afloat. He rented out the upstairs to tenants, while he lived in the unfinished basement like a ghost haunting his own ruin. He'd cash the rent checks at payday loan places to dodge bank garnishments, paying obscene fees just to survive. For a while, he hid that house from me. But secrets don't stay buried forever. My investigator followed him one night, watched him pull up to a quiet suburban street. And that's when we knew the house was ours next. It took years, but I tore through every fake company, every paper wall he'd built to protect it. And one bright morning, Joe walked out for cigarettes and came back to find the sheriff had changed the locks. That was it. The final curtain. Joe's lawyer, working pro bono because Joe couldn't afford a dime, begged me, "Can he at least live in the basement?" I looked across the parking lot from my office tower and saw that lawyer's window. We'd spoken before, decent guy. But mercy had no place here. I said, "Ask the new owner." I knew full well the new owner was one of my client's employees. Joe wasn't getting back in. That house, his last safe place, was gone. He was officially homeless. All Joe had left was his truck, a huge gas-guzzling beast that burned more money than it was worth. But I didn't take it, not out of kindness, but because it wasn't worth seizing. So he lived in it. He slept in the same truck he'd once bragged about buying cash. Weeks passed, then months. Until one night, I got a call from the tenants at that same house. He came back, they said. He parked across the driveway and stormed off. He's furious. Said he's coming back to sleep in his truck tonight. That was it. The last straw. I called one of the tow truck drivers I'd once defended in my criminal law days. Someone who owed me a favor. A few hours later, Joe's truck was gone. But not impounded. Moved somewhere special. The next morning, Joe's lawyer called me, voice tight with anger. "My client wants his truck back." "Not happening," I said. I stood 15 stories up, coffee in hand, looking down at the parking lot below, the same lot where my office faced his. "You have no right to it," he said. "And he had no right to block someone's driveway," I replied calmly. He went quiet. Then, "Are you really going to make me take this to court?" "Do what you have to," I said, watching the city wake beneath me. He told me Joe was coming in to sign an affidavit the next morning. I said fine, but I already knew how this would end. The next day, sunlight spilled through my office window. The air was calm. I took a slow sip of my coffee when my phone rang. It was him, the lawyer. His voice was sharp now. "Why didn't you tell me Joe's truck was parked right outside my office?" I stared down through the glass, and there it was. Joe's old truck, parked perfectly below me. "Is that so?" I said. "How careless of my tow guy. I'll have to talk to him." "Very funny," he snapped. "My client's going to sue." "No, he isn't," I interrupted. "He's going to walk downstairs, get in that truck, and drive away. It's full of gas, oil changed, all ready to go. Tell him this. If I ever see that truck again, I'll seize it for the rest of the judgment." He tried to argue, but I'd already hung up. A few minutes later, I saw Joe. He looked smaller. No swagger, no smirk. Just a hollow man walking toward his last possession on earth. He climbed in, started the engine, and for a second, smoke poured from the exhaust like a ghost escaping its body. And then he drove off. That was the last time I ever saw Joe. From 15 stories up, I watched him drive away. The man who once thought he was untouchable. He didn't know I was there, looking down. The man who'd taken everything from him. And in that quiet moment, I felt something I can't quite describe. Not joy. Not guilt. Something heavier. Like watching justice balance its scales. He wasn't the first man I ruined. But he was the only one whose final downfall I witnessed from above. Like watching fate itself close a book. Justice doesn't always come with handcuffs or headlines. Sometimes it's just a quiet morning, a cup of coffee, and the knowledge that karma finally found its mark. If this story made you believe in karma again, hit that like button and tell me in the comments. What's the most satisfying revenge you've ever seen? And don't forget to subscribe for more stories just like this one, where justice always finds a way.